video in. Hello everyone, hope you're doing okay. Right, welcome to Reading Time with Kate part 11. Now, we may or may not be able to finish the book, so we'll see how we get on. So, from where we left off, so Dad and Frank looked out of the broken window and then they saw Frank's mum, and she's called Rita. So, chapter 56, Mum with a Gun. Don't do anything stupid, Rita, pleaded Dad. In her hands was a pistol, which she pointed straight at him. I thought you were rotting away in prison, she purred. I was, replied Dad, but I am out, just for the night. Mum approached the broken window and peered inside. What have you done to my biggie? She demanded on seeing her boyfriend sprawled out on his silk rug. I knocked him out with my wooden leg, answered Dad. I bet you enjoyed that, Gilbert, she snarled. Do you know what, Rita? I did. I can't believe all those years ago I fell in love with you, she said. I can't believe I was in love with you, replied Dad. But you were different then, Rita, before Mr. Big came along and turned your head with his riches. Biggie knows how to treat a lady. Love isn't measured in gold and diamonds. That man down there doesn't love you. You're just another one of his possessions. Mum cocked the pistol, ready to fire. Click. I've had quite enough of listening to you, Gilbert. Now get out of my house, but leave the boy with me. Frank felt a wave of panic crash over him. Living in his huge house with his mum and her boyfriend was the last thing he wanted. I know you're angry with me for walking out, Frank, said Mum, but I want you back in my life. Dad looked to his son. What do you want, Frank? I bet you want to come and live here in this big house in the lap of luxury with me and Biggie, don't you? No, replied the boy in a flash. Instantly, the woman crumbled in front of his eyes. What do you mean, no? I'm sorry, Mum, but I don't want to live here with you. Not ever. All I want is to be with my dad. Even though he's got nothing. In fact, less than nothing, she said. Dad's got everything I need and more, replied Frank. And he doesn't have to point a gun at anyone to make me love him. Deep sorrow crept across Mum's face and she burst into tears. Trembling, she brought the gun down and sank to her knees. I'm so sorry, Frank. I took a wrong turn in life. I made a mistake walking out, but I've had to live with it. I know I let you down, Frank. I bet you hate my guts. The boy stepped through the glass window and joined her on the patio. Slowly he approached his mother and wrapped his arms round her. I don't hate you, Mum. I love you. These 3 words made her sob even more. Please forgive me, Frank, she said through tears. I should have been a mother to you. I've been lost, so lost. But son, I realise now what a fool I've been. I love you too. I forgive you, Mum. Mum held her son tightly as Dad stepped through the broken window to stand beside them. After a few moments, the boy eased himself away from his mother. I'm sorry, but me and Dad have to go, said Frank. Mum tried to sniff back the tears. Where are you two going at this time of night? We have to right a wrong, Mum. A big wrong. Mum nodded her head. You've always got to right a wrong. Chapter 57. Frank took his mother by the arm. It's cold, Mum. Let me get you back inside. Gilbert watched his son with pride, who, despite everything, was showing his mother such kindness. Frank looked back at her through the broken window. There was his mother, standing alone in the study in her silk nightdress, tears running down her face with mascara smudged around her eyes. The boy took his father's hand and they stepped off the patio into the garden. We have to come back for her, said Frank. We'll see, replied Dad. As the pair reached the stone wall that surrounded Mr. Big's house, 2 fearsome beasts jumped down from a tree and landed on their heads. Ah! They screamed. It was Ronnie and Reggie, the world's most terrifying big small cats. Get off! Screamed Dad, as Ronnie leaped onto his back, digging his sharp claws into his chest. "Help!" screamed Frank as Reggie leaped onto his head and punched him square on the nose with his paw. "Dad, I can't pull him off," screamed Frank. "Nor me," said Dad as he desperately tried to yank the cat off his back. The animal's claws had gone deep into the man's flesh. "But I know there's one thing cats really hate." "What?" asked the boy as Reggie rained more blows down upon him. "Water." "The fountain!" exclaimed Frank, and they ran off in the direction of it. "Oh no!" exclaimed the boy as they sprinted. "His bum is in my face!" "Keep running," said Dad, even as Ronnie bit into his ear with his fangs. "Ouch!" The pair held hands as they leaped into the fountain. Splosh! Instead of being scared by water, the two cats turned out to be expert swimmers. They dived into the pond and, like jet-propelled sharks, pursued the father and son round and round the fountain. "Jump out!" shouted Dad as the pair scrambled across the gravel. Ronnie and Reggie gave chase. In a panic, Frank slipped and fell flat on his face. Gilbert kneeled down to help him up. "Meow!" screamed the cats as they leaped through the air and landed on the pair's backs. They pinned them down, sinking their claws deeper and deeper into Frank and Dad's flesh. "Ah!" screamed Frank. "We're done for," said Dad. But then, hiss, hissed the cats as they were yanked off father and son. Frank looked up. His mother had grabbed both animals by their tails. "Mum!" exclaimed the boy. "I always hated these cats," she said. Then she spun round and round as if she was a champion disco dancer, gripping on to a tail in each hand. "Hiss!" hissed the cats. They didn't like it one bit. When she was going so fast that Ronnie and Reggie were just a blur, she let go. "Meow!" screamed the cats as they sailed through the air, landing with two loud thuds in a distant corner of the garden. "Boof, boof." "Thank you, Rita," said Dad. "Don't worry," she said. "Now go before Mr. Big wakes up." "Thank you, Mum," said Frank. "I'm glad to help you two, even just a little bit," replied Mum. "Be careful." "We will," lied Frank. "Rita," came a voice from inside the house. "Go, go, go," she urged. In seconds they were gone. Chapter 58. Once on the other side of the Pilfer house wall, the pair found Queenie, slung the money in on the back seat and sped off in the direction of the bank. It was well past midnight now, and there was no one about. Dad stopped the car in a side road opposite the bank and turned off the headlights. A couple of months had passed since the robbery and the bank had been repaired. "How are we going to break in?" asked Dad. "I don't think we should blow it up again," replied Frank. "There's no point creating £1 million worth of damage to put £500,000 back in the vault." "No," muttered Dad. "It would be fun though." "This is the plan I worked out, Dad. We're going to wait until the first person arrives for work at the bank and then trick our way in. That could be hours." "No. One morning I got up really early and sneaked out of Auntie Flip's house to watch the bank. The bank manager arrives each morning at dawn. Good work. Let's just sit tight until then and we can trick our way in." At that moment, the crane from the scrapyard trundled round the corner. Fingers was once again at the controls. It stopped right outside the bank and Fingers jumped to the ground. Behind it was one of Mr. Big's Rolls Royce. Thumb stepped out of the fancy car and opened the door for his boss. Mr. Big emerged, nursing his battered head with a big bag of ice. "Those two rats are in there somewhere, I know it," he said to his henchman. "They are putting my hard stolen money back in the bank." "Disgusting," said Thumbs. "It's just not right," added Fingers. "Let's sneak out of the car before they spot us," whispered Dad. The pair slid down from their seats and crawled along the street on their hands and knees, taking the bin liner full of money with them. They found a hiding place behind a postbox. "Look, Governor, it's a Minnie just like theirs," announced Thumbs. "It is their Minnie," said Fingers. "Well done, Thumbs, you've got a gold star." Mr. Big crossed the road, his silk dressing gown blowing in the wind. He peered into Queenie through the large hole in the roof. They're not in the car, so I was right. They must be inside the bank already, he said. Mr. Big crossed back over the road and rattled the doors to the bank. Clever. They must have barricaded themselves in. Fingers, do your worst. Right away, governor, replied Fingers with a grin. A little demolition job. Yes, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't think there are any birds we need to kill, governor, said Thumbs. Oh, do shut up, or I'll order you to punch yourself. Fingers drove the crane towards the Minnie. Its thick metal arm swung through the air and its claw picked up Queenie with ease. Clank! Then the arm swung again and the little car reeled towards the bank. Frank held tightly onto his dad's arm. The man closed his eyes. He couldn't watch what was about to happen. Crash! Queenie smashed through the entrance to the bank. Boom! The doors and windows burst onto the street. Crash! The bank's alarm blared. Ring! The crane swung back to reveal a crumpled mess that used to be Queenie. The whole front end of the car had been destroyed. The grille had dropped off, the bonnet had been bashed, and the front wheels were dangling by a thread. No, whispered Dad. The poor man had tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Dad, whispered the boy. He put his arm round his father. I know you loved her. Farewell, Your Majesty, said Dad. Finish her off, ordered Mr. Big. Yes, sir, replied Fingers. He pulled a lever on the crane and hoisted the car as high as it would go. It swayed in the wind for a few moments. Then the claw opened and the Minnie fell through the air. In a second, it hit the road. The crane then surged forward and crushed what was left of the car under its caterpillar tracks. Crunch! Queenie had been a member of the family for as long as Frank could remember. Now she was nothing more than a flattened mess of metal. That's their gateway car knackered, governor. Oh, that's their getaway car knackered, governor, said Fingers with a wicked grin. Good work, Fingers. Now I want my money back. Let's get in there and stop those 2 rats before the filth arrive, ordered Mr. Big, and he followed his henchmen inside the bank. What are we going to do, mate? Asked Dad. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, replied the boy. Father gave son a puzzled look. You'll see, said Frank, pulling his dad along. Chapter 59. Now, just want to check it's filming. Yeah. Without realising it, Mr. Big and his goon squad were doing most of the hard work for Frank and Dad. Father and son were now able to walk straight into the bank. The only trouble was that the alarm had been set off and the police were sure to arrive in moments. Working fast, they followed the path of destruction left by the 3 criminals down to the bank's vault. Doors had been smashed off hinges, glass broken and electronic keypads bashed in. Kaboom! Frank and his father were rocked by an explosion. Debris fell from the ceiling. A cloud of black smoke filled the air and any windows that hadn't already been broken exploded, spraying bullets of glass everywhere. The pair covered their faces with their hands. Are you all right, mate? Spluttered Dad as he gasped for air. Fine, I think. Let's carry on. Together they stumbled forward and stopped at the top of a spiral staircase. The vault must be down in the basement, whispered Dad. The pair tiptoed down the stairs. The smoke cleared to reveal an amusing sight. The criminal gang had clearly used far too much dynamite to blow the lock on the door to the vault. All 3 were singed, burnt black and with smoke snaking off them. Mr. Big, Fingers and Thumbs looked like 3 sausages that had been overcooked on a barbecue. There they are, said Fingers, pointing with his long, thin, charred finger. Thumbs looked mightily confused. But we thought you were in the vault already. Well, you were wrong. We were out here the whole time, said Frank with a grin. Oh, replied the henchman, bowing his head. Mr. Big rocked uneasily in his slippers. From the look on his face, he loathed being outsmarted like this. Actually, you 2 have fallen straight into my trap. How is that then, Biggie? Asked Dad. Well, because the man stumbled. Because now we are going to steal back the money from you that we stole from the bank and steal some more. And you two idiots are going to get the blame. Fingers, thumbs, take it all. Every last penny. Me bag's got a hole in it now, said Thumbs. Mine's got two, added Fingers. Just like that, their clothes, the dynamite had taken its toll on the bags. Well then, stuff your pockets, ordered Mr. Big. The two henchmen examined what was left of their coats. Not got any pockets no more, replied Thumbs. I've got one, governor, said Fingers. Oh no, sorry, it's got a hole in it, he added, wiggling one of his fingers through to demonstrate. You can borrow our bag, said Frank. But that's got £500,000 in it, mate, hissed Dad out of the corner of his mouth so only his son could hear. Bring it to me, boy, ordered Big. The boy took a few paces forward and handed the bag to Mr. Big. The little man looked inside and his face lit up. Ah, my babies, oh, how I missed you, he said, before passing the bin liner to Fingers. Then the two henchmen disappeared inside the vault and began stuffing the bag with wad after wad of money. Frank peered into the vault to get a better look. Look at all that lovely money, boys, said Big. More money than you could ever earn in a lifetime. Just there for the taking. The boy's eyes widened. I know you're tempted, boy. Look at it. It can give you anything you want, anything. Frank stared at it, mesmerised. It's beautiful. It is, replied Mr. Big, egging the boy on. Money is the most beautiful thing in the world. I love it, said Frank. It was as if his eyes had lit up with gold. I love, love, love it. But May, pleaded Dad, think. What are you doing? Come with me, boy, continued Mr. Big. He stretched out his hand towards the boy. Take your rightful place at my side. I can be the father you never had. Join me. Together we can rule the world. Frank took a deep breath. I would like that, he said. I would like that very much. What's he playing at? Poor Dad had tears in his eyes. Mate, no. I'm so pleased you've come round to my way of thinking, boy, said Mr. Big, shooting a smug look at Gilbert. Frank's must be playing a trick here. Let's start right now, said Frank. He took Mr. Big's hand and led the man into the vault. Ah. Mate, screamed Dad. As if in a trance, the boy kept going further and further inside. Mr. Big turned back to Gilbert and smirked. You've lost, little man. As Big and his goons busied themselves greedily, stuffing the bag full of more and more money, the boy slowly backed out of the vault. Once he'd passed the thick metal door, he whispered, Dad, I tricked them. Help me. Clever boy. The boy began pushing the door shut. Dad rushed to help, and together they used all their strength to try to close it. Inside the vault, Big looked up. Get the door, he shouted, and he and his gang ran towards it. They smashed their shoulders up against the door, pushing with all their might, desperate not to be trapped inside. I knew you would never let me down, said Dad. Never, replied the boy, as they both strained against the door. Mr. Big just managed to squeeze his face through the tiny gap. You are no match for me, Gilbert, said the man. I pity you. No wife, no money, no leg. The plan was for you to die in that little racing accident. You made this happen. You made that happen, said Dad, shaking with fury. I wanted Rita, and I wanted you out of the way forever. I booby-trapped your engine, shouted Fingers, and I cut your brakes, screamed Thumbs. But your plan didn't work, did it? Replied Dad defiantly. Because I'm still here. You are right, agreed Mr. Big, but you know what? I think I prefer you crippled. That way I've had the pleasure of watching you suffer all those years. Not anymore, yelled Dad. Now it's your turn to suffer, shouted Frank. The anger made the pair strong. Together they just managed to push the three back and slam the vault door behind them. Clunk! but they couldn't lock it. "Darn," said Dad. "Look, they've blown the bolt on the door. We need to jam them in somehow," said Frank. "Let's put that thing to one final good use." "What thing?" "That leg of yours." "I can't leave it here. Dad, we have no choice." Reluctantly, the man whipped his wooden leg off, and together they slid it into place. The door was blocked. Faintly, they could hear the three criminals pounding on the other side, pathetically pleading for mercy. "We can make a deal. It was all Fingers' idea. Thumbs made me do it." Frank and his father looked at each other and smiled. "See, Dad, we killed two birds with one stone. We put the money back and trapped the real criminals in there at the same time." "You, mate, are a genius," exclaimed Dad. "Thank you, Dad. The police will find them in no time at all. In fact, we need to get out of here now." Without needing to say another word, he put his arm over his son's shoulders for support. Frank helped his dad hop up the spiral staircase. As they reached the entrance to the bank, dawn was breaking. In the distance, they could hear police sirens wailing, "Nino, Nino, Nino." They rushed the other way down the street. "Right, now back to prison for you, Dad," said Frank. Once Dad had hopped all the way home, he changed himself back into Auntie Flip's long flowery dress. Without his wooden leg, the man was struggling to get around, so Frank hurriedly improvised a new one from an old plastic mop in the kitchen. The pair jumped on the bus to take them to Wrongfoot Prison, at the far side of the town. It wasn't visiting day until next week, so they were going to have to blag their way in somehow. Frank's idea was that they should say they had some upsetting news to tell Gilbert Goody. The pair would make up a distant relative, a cousin or uncle or someone, and say that they died and had to tell the boy's father in person. "Who goes there?" barked Mr. Swivel through a tiny hatch at the huge metal front door of Wrongfoot Prison. "Gilbert Goody is my father, and I have some very sad news for him," blubbed Frank. He'd made himself cry by holding a raw onion in a tissue and dabbing his eyes with it. Dad, dressed as Auntie Flip, put a comforting arm round the boy's shoulder. "Oh, it's you!" exclaimed Swivel. "You were here only yesterday. We are closed to visitors for 2 weeks. What is this sad news exactly?" demanded the prison guard. "It better be really, really, really gut-wrenchingly sad." "I don't know how to say this without breaking down, but," began Frank. "Get on with it, boy," ordered Mr. Swivel. "His Uncle Keith has passed away," blubbed Dad. "Dead?" asked Mr. Swivel. "Yes," replied Dad. "Completely dead?" "Yes, 100% completely, utterly, never going to be alive again, dead." "I'll tell him," snapped Mr. Swivel. With that, he slid the metal hatch shut. Frank and his dad looked at each other in panic. This was not part of the plan. "We need to tell Gilbert face to face," shouted Dad through the prison door. "Why?" shouted Mr. Swivel from the other side. Because we wouldn't want to spoil the surprise," replied Frank. Dad looked at his son as if to say, "What are you on about?" "Surprise?" said Swivel. "Yes, he always hated Uncle Keith," replied Frank. There was a sound of keys jangling, and then the huge metal door slid open. "Clunk, you've got 2 minutes, and I've got my eye on you," said the prison guard, though he didn't state which eye, the real one or the glass one. Mr. Swivel took the two up to a little grey room and told them to wait. Moments later, he led in Auntie Flip, dressed as Dad. The poor woman looked completely frazzled after her night in the cells. "They've got some news for you," barked the prison guard. "Your Uncle Keith has snuffed it." "Who?" replied Auntie Flip. "You know, Uncle Keith," continued Dad, winking at the lady and hoping she might realise that this was a scam. "Your uncle who you knew very well." "Oh, old Uncle Keith, yes, of course I remember," exclaimed Auntie Flip. "How is he?" "Dead," replied Frank. "Dead? No!" screamed the lady, and she burst into a fountain of tears. The prison guard observed all this like a hawk, a one-eyed hawk. "You said your father always hated Uncle Keith," said Mr. Swivel. "Yes, well, hate is a strong word. Yes, but you always disliked him, Dad, remember?" prompted the boy. The lady eventually got the hint and began hooting with fake laughter. "Ho, ho, Uncle Keith has kicked the bucket. Yippee!" Mr. Swivel shook his head, mightily confused by this bizarre family. Right, get out of my prison, you two weirdos, he barked. Could we have a moment to grieve as a family in peace, Mr. Swivel? Pleaded Dad as Auntie Flip. Grieve? Asked Mr. Swivel. I mean celebrate, said Dad. The prison guard sighed. All right, you have 1 minute and not a second more, he barked, slamming the door behind him. Bang! We'd better swap clothes quickly, said Dad. Yes, I can't wait to get out of here, replied the lady. Did you not enjoy your night in prison, Auntie Flip? Asked the boy. The lady looked at Frank as if he was stark raving mad. The noise, the people, she exclaimed. I had to share a cell with these 6 brutes who were brothers. I couldn't sleep a wink. They were all staring at me funny. I thought they were on to me, that they might do me in during the night, but I began reciting some of my poetry about the joys of garden centres to them, and that seemed to send them off to sleep in an instant. I bet, murmured Frank under his breath. Now, boy, close your eyes while we get changed. Frank did what he was told. In a few moments, Auntie Flip announced, Right, you can open them again. Frank opened his eyes, relieved to see that Dad was back to being Dad and Auntie Flip was back to being Auntie Flip. I am me again, thank the Lord, said the lady, lifting her hands in prayer. Click. At that moment, Mr. Swivel marched back into the room. Right, that's quite enough crying or laughing or whatever bizarre thing you do in this family. When someone snuffs it, you two, out. Auntie Flip and Frank were led out of the room. As they reached the door, the boy looked over his shoulder and smiled at his father. Out! Barked Mr. Swivel. I'm just going to check the time. Oh, we might have to leave it there, because if I film any more, then the file's too big and then it doesn't send. So, we'll leave it there. Reading time with Kate part 11 is finished. And then I think we'll just have part 12 for next week. And then we would have finished the book. Okay, stay safe and I'll see you soon. Bye.